Hey folks, welcome to another edition of Fitness Friday Posi-TIPS with Rachelle. Folks, I am so excited and ready to revisit this series. Did 4 episodes on the sales advantage a few weeks ago. Going to continue this series with episodes 5 through 8 this time. And so I've divided it out. So this episode I'm actually going to cover sales ethics, sales culture. Next time I'm going to talk about sales promotion. After that, I'm going to talk about storytelling and how important that is to sales. And lastly, going to talk about the sales process. This is such an important topic. I had planned to discuss sales process, combine it with this episode, but this is such an important topic here today on sales culture and ethics. And it is worthy of its own highlights and conversation here, folks. So want to kick this episode off by highlighting this is an FYI or for your information type of highlight here, and that is club industry had an article that's attributed to the club industry staff, and it appeared in the clubindustry.com, an article. I got it in the e-newsletter. The title of this article is Gyms Act Introduced in U.S. Senate. So this was published on the 26th of May this year. And I highlighted this a few weeks ago, but this is actually the second part of the entire process. Not going to highlight this all, and just wanted to point out a couple of quick things. Number one, it starts off by saying the Gym Mitigation and Survival, and it's in parentheses, GYMS, Act was introduced in the U.S. Senate on May 13th. This follows the February 5th introduction of a companion Gyms Act bill in the U.S. House of Representatives, where it now has more than 110 sponsors. U.S. Senator Tammy Duckworth, Democrat Illinois, member of the U.S. Senate Committee on Small Business and Entrepreneurship, and U.S. Senator Jerry Moran, Republican Kansas, introduced the bipartisan bill. If passed, the Gyms Act would provide assistance for fitness facilities that were forced to temporarily close during the COVID-19 pandemic and, as a consequence, have struggled to stay in business. The Bipartisan Gyms Act would establish a $30 billion grant program through the Small Business Administration, similar to the programs already in existence for restaurants and live event venues. Small businesses across the country have been hard hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, and gyms are no exception. They've lost 1.4 million jobs along with tens of billions in revenue, said Duckworth. It is critical we support the fitness industry to help bring back jobs and provide Americans with opportunities to improve their fitness during this public health crisis. I'm proud to introduce this bipartisan bill that will help ensure gyms and fitness centers have the resources they need to get to the other side of this pandemic. Moran added, gyms and fitness centers across the nation had to close their doors last year to help stop the spread of COVID-19. These businesses play an important role in keeping Kansans healthy, and this legislation will allow gyms and fitness facilities to apply for federal relief funds to be used for critical operating expenses to reopen their doors. Here, lastly, I'm going to highlight this point. As of December 2020, 17% of U.S. fitness centers had permanently closed, and 1.4 million jobs, or 44% of the industry, have been lost during the pandemic, according to IHRSA. And there's more to that. You can look it up if you are so inclined, but just wanted to kick this episode off by highlighting how there is bipartisan support now for this particular act. Not going to comment and have a call to action on what people need to do and any of that. This is political, not getting into the middle of that, but just providing you an FYI. And if you decide to take any action, you will do so at your own volition. And folks, before I delve on into this important topic of sales culture and sales ethics, I just saw this. It was Wednesday night, but it's actually something that I just saw, of course, several months after it happened. But it was published in December 2019 by Andy Berg of Athletic Business. The title of this article is Duo Nab for Cross-Country Fitness Club Thefts. And one thing I've said over the years is people have various reasons for going to gyms, for going to fitness centers, studios, whatever the case may be. And they are not all, they're not all good intentions. They're not all altruistic or trying to take care of their health or, trying to be there for their families in terms of having good health, fitness, and wellness, all of that. You have people, as is true the case in any situation, you're going to have people with nefarious nefarious goals, attitude, thoughts, whatever the case may be. Whether you're talking about somebody walking into Walmart, everyone that walks into Walmart or Target does not have a right motive, all right? It's not there to go shopping. Theft is a very big issue, and particularly in gyms. A lot of facilities over the years have been dogged with this, but I just had to highlight this one because this is an outlier in terms of what these folks pulled off here. I'm not going to read this all in the interest of time. It says 2 men arrested in connection with dozens of locker room thefts at fitness clubs in Bellevue, Washington are now facing charges for similar crimes in at least 6 states. Troy Mitchell and Sidney Williams were primarily after credit cards left in people's wallets. Authorities said they targeted places like LA Fitness, clubs, and locations across the country. The pair used a gym membership to get into the locker room and would then cut the locks and steal credit cards. The men were caught on surveillance cameras buying up gift cards, often before the victims realized they had been robbed. And so it goes on to talk more about that, but lastly it says they would use the same gym membership card, said Black. And so when they would check in Colorado or Oregon or Georgia or Texas, it would light up. So our detective alerted law enforcement officials in all those different states, and now they're being brought up on charges across the nation. Gym theft, a very big issue. This duo obviously took it to an unfortunate level where they took their con game and their theft game nationwide, hitting several states with this national membership, of course, that allows for visits to multiple clubs. So just another FYI on the importance of security, the importance of not bringing items of value into any fitness facility. I mean, it's just, I've said that over the years. You can't look at zip code. You can't look at how much a facility, in terms of who their target audience and if it's wealthy or if it's not or whatever the case may be. Okay, you've got people with wrong motives, unfortunately, that enter gyms across the country. But this is an example, and just had to highlight that as we are now going to move forward into this important conversation on sales ethics and sales culture. Got a few examples here I'm going to highlight during this episode, but this has been here saved on my iPad actually I was in Louisiana when I saw this. And so I'm going to start off here. We talk about sales culture and sales ethics. And I've highlighted in the past, I have a sales background in a professional capacity, sales coach, sales trainer. Is one of my professional hats. Okay, and so the dynamic with sales that can be very challenging. And so this is an episode where I don't have to give 25 examples of a sales culture that has questionable ethical operations and all that. Those places, in many cases, often get found out. All right, and they end up on the news. They end up in some situation that's unfortunate. And so we all, everyone, no doubt in my mind, everyone watching this has had some type of unfortunate negative experience with a salesperson of regardless of industry, regardless of what it is you were buying. The negative sales experiences abound because you've got the unfortunate reality where salespeople often face a great deal of sales pressure, and you have, particularly in terms of sales roles, where you have in certain industry and certain fields where it could be 100% commission in terms of how that individual is compensated. And so there can be a level of desperation, there can be a level, and yes, in some cases greed, where it just can be, just leave a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. And so I always like to preface that, or just preface conversations on sales, that this concept of sales pressure that often is often a result of a salesperson feeling or experiencing a great deal of sales pressure. And they could be full salaried individual, or hourly plus commission, or commission only. There's various types of sales plans, but the sales field, the sales is a career. That is just something that individuals, you need to be comfortable with rejection, and you also need to be very comfortable with sales pressure in terms of performance and what your quota is, if you have a quota, and if there's an expectation of you to meet the quota and that's good enough, or if there's an expectation, a continuous expectation to exceed the quota. All right, and so obviously those who aren't even meeting the quotas, those individuals are going to experience even heightened heightened pressure from above, whether it's from a sales manager or a CEO, if it's a small business, the president or the CEO or the owner. It just depends on how a particular organization, in terms of how they're structured, in terms of who's in management, what the titles are. But anyway, that pressure that cascades from the top is certainly there. But specifically in terms of sales ethics, I want to highlight this example that appeared in the Detroit News, and it is quite a lengthy article. I don't have, in the interest of time, not going to cover all of this, but Robert Snell and Brianna Noble published this article on April 30th, but it was updated on April 30th later that day. So this is the latest and greatest version of this article. And so Metro Detroit folks may have heard about this, but this is, again, Fitness Friday is for people all over. So had to highlight this. No, it starts off by saying, federal prosecutors Friday charged one of the nation's top Fiat Chrysler automobiles, MV, salespeople with helping orchestrate a wire fraud conspiracy that cost the automaker $8.7 million. Parkway Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram salesman Apollo is in quotes, probably his nickname, Nemo, age 34, of Macomb Township, was charged with wire fraud and conspiracy to commit wire fraud for allegedly orchestrating a scam that involved illegally selling employee discounts to non-qualified buyers. He was arrested Friday and made an initial appearance in federal court in the afternoon to face charges that could send him to prison for up to 20 years. An unsealed criminal complaint obtained by the Detroit News describes a vast black market involving brokers who peddled employee discount numbers to salespeople who connected with buyers in private Facebook groups. FCA representatives have informed me that they continue to receive information indicating that Nemo's fraudulent use of employee numbers continues to the present day. Homeland Security Investigation Special Agent Joseph Kunamayil wrote in an affidavit filed in federal court. The criminal scheme described by the government involved a birthright perk in a company town where union workers and salaried employees of Detroit's 3 automakers and eligible relatives are accustomed to using discounts to buy or lease new vehicles. Automakers routinely conduct audits to eliminate fraud involving discount programs. During the Great Recession, as General Motors Corporation teetered on the brink of bankruptcy, the automaker sued buyers for unauthorized use of worker discounts. At the time, one retired automaker in Buffalo, New York, was sued for $45,501 and accused of giving discounts to 13 people from 2004 to April 2007. I'm going to skip a little bit of this here, and you know what, let me go through the next paragraph, then I'm going to skip a little bit and talk about, in terms of performance, how this individual performed relative to others. It's very enlightening, and then I'm going to close this particular article and finish this. So the next paragraph says, the program offers FCA employees and relatives a 5% discount on vehicles, and prosecutors say most of Nemo's sales were under the Employee Purchase Control Number program. He was the program's top salesman nationwide during sales periods in 2018 and 2019, according to the complaint. And I emphasize that for a reason. I'm going to come down here to it in a second as I go through a little bit more here. I'm reading a little bit more because I want to provide context. I mean, for people who live in Metro Detroit, you're familiar, you've heard of these discounts, friends and family discounts, but there's many people, of course, are outside of our area, and I want to provide some context so you understand what these discounts are, how often they are used, and just how important they are in terms of a perk that's offered by the big 3 in terms of their current employees, retirees, and the like. All right, so it says, a shackled, unshaven, and disheveled Nemo, dressed in a black short-sleeved t-shirt, made a brief appearance in federal court in Detroit and was released on a $10,000 unsecured bond. He listened with a mask dangling off of his left ear and told U.S. Magistrate Judge Anthony Patty he planned on hiring a lawyer. Going to skip a little bit. All right, here we go. The alleged scheme was uncovered after employees filed complaints with Fiat Chrysler, now part of Stellantis NV, saying their employee numbers were being used without their consent. Clinton Township Police and Kunyumayalil interviewed the employees and discovered many of the employee numbers were used in vehicle sales and leases at the Parkway dealership. Investigators analyzed 268 employee numbers that were illegally used and found every instance was traced to Nemo from 2016 to 2018, according to the agent. The automaker reimburses its dealers for the 5% discount after the sale happens, said Jim Shabo, owner and president of Fox Hill Chrysler Jeep in Plymouth, which is not mentioned in the complaint. Stellantis employees receive a certain number of discounts each year, and they list eligible relatives with the company. The company gives the employee a number, which they can then provide to a qualifying relative to receive the discount at a dealership. A dealership then verifies the information through a configurator in the automaker's system, Shebo said, inputting the employee's name, relative's name, and the identification number provided by the company. I'm going to skip a little bit here. 90% of sales at Village Ford and Dearborn are under some type of benefits plan, said Jim Seavitt, the dealership's owner. You're the gatekeeper of that, he said, of sales under the programs for employees, retirees, suppliers, and dealers. If they come in and audit you, you have to prove all of these people were qualified. And so I'm going to skip in terms of what that proof is. It's a real disadvantage to other dealers in town when that sort of stuff is happening, Seavitt said. When you have a customer coming in the door and they're not one of the approved employees or approved family members and they get the factory discount, then they get a lot of business they shouldn't have. During the investigation, agents learned Nemo's father leased at least 3 cars from his son at Parkway in 2014, according to the complaint. For all 3 transactions for his father, Nemo stated that his father is the brother, sister-in-law of 3 separate FCA employees, the agent wrote. Going to skip a little bit. It talks about more about his family and how he did some of that. I want to go on, to a point that someone made in a Facebook group. So this is very illustrative to this whole concept of sales culture and sales ethics that is so important, because now we've got the federal government involved. I mean, you've got special agents with Homeland Security involved in something like this. And this is just, this is obviously a very big outlier, but this kind of stuff happens every day, particularly as far as sales are concerned. And so it says in a Facebook group, several Facebook group chats mention Nemo, the agent wrote. In a July 2018 chat, one member wrote, looking for recommendations on car leases. Can be any type of car as well. Thank you guys. Another member posted in response, come on, Peter. I've told you about Apollo 1,000 times, plus everyone else in here uses him. Investigators questioned a manager at Sterling Heights Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in June who said Nemo sold about 250 vehicles in January 2020, an extremely high and unusual number according to the court filing. Last point I'm going to make, there's more in this article, but got to move on in the interest of time because this point here really drives it home as far as sales culture and sales ethics is concerned. He further stated that Nemo personally sells more vehicles than entire sales departments at most FCA dealerships, the agent wrote. Again, the special agent that I referenced earlier with the Department of Homeland Security. So here it is, yet another example of a salesperson cutting corners to get ahead. All right, now this is a ugly mess, a PR nightmare for this dealership, but I think it really begs the question, and of course this is the purpose of the whole investigation and all of that. I've certainly know none of these people, never bought a car from that dealership, whatever. This is just my opinion. But when you have one salesperson selling 250 cars in the month of January 2020. And as this special agent went on, as I just quoted, this person sold more vehicles than entire sales departments. Massive red flag. Massive red flag. All right, of course, this is, is not the full case has not been prosecuted and all of that. Still got to go through the justice system and all of that, but just want to point this out. Okay, this was an extreme outlier in terms of if you got one person outperforming entire sales departments at other dealerships across the country. Okay, that's a red flag. And from a sales performance standpoint, just talking here from my professional opinion, when you have someone that is that much of an outlier, I mean, it begs the questions like, okay, how is this person doing this? What are they doing? Sales manager, how are they doing this? Is this on the up and up? General manager, is this on the up and up? I mean, these are just, begs. These are just questions that certainly arise, whether we're talking about somebody selling cars or somebody selling a medical device or someone selling whatever, even a gym membership. I mean, it begs to, like, what is a person doing? And you got to be careful in these situations, because there could be illegal actions that have cost, of course, this automaker millions of dollars, negative publicity for the dealership. I'm sure some I don't know this, but typically some heads roll in these type of situations when this happened. Not just the salesperson, but it's because it begs the question of who knew what when. How long has this been going on? How come someone didn't alert me? And so it's just a very, very ugly situation. And so from a sales standpoint, and I'm always saying, gotta act with integrity. Gotta act with integrity. We gotta preserve our credibility. We gotta preserve our reputation. Because the sales as a career and then the sales field has generally speaking, and research has proven this over the years, a very poor reputation. Because I pointed out earlier in this episode, many of us can have a bad experience where we're talking about a fast-talking salesperson, that you often hear that phrase used, fast-talking salesperson or slick salesperson, or they manipulated me into doing this, they manipulated me. One common theme that you see across, particularly in the fitness industry, when you look at online reviews across the country, this is just, regardless of what the name of the gym or the facility is, I feel like they didn't explain things to me. I felt like they pressured me into signing up for something I didn't want to sign up for. They pressured me to upgrade my membership when I signed up, and I only wanted a basic membership. It's just, particularly that this concept, particularly sales and member signups, as well as on the back end cancellations, has dogged the fitness industry for years. For years and years and years. And in the fitness industry, I implore each and every person watching this to act with integrity. Now, particularly for folks who have sales roles, it is so important, because it only takes a few minutes for your reputation, your credibility, your demonstration, a negative demonstration of your lack of integrity, to ruin your career, to ruin your facility, to cause you to lose your job, to just cause, again, you got federal investigators involved in the situation. We've got to do better. And the fitness industry has got to do better. All right, I've been saying this for a long time now. But the pressure of salespeople within the fitness industry is no exception. Is rough and is tough and can be unrelenting at times. But it is so important. It's imperative to resist that pressure. Yes, acknowledge the reality of it, but make a decision that no matter how tough the sales and the pressure is, I'm going to maintain my integrity. I'm going to do what's right. I'm not going to end up being mentioned in Google review after Google review after Google review or Yelp review of my facility. A person is not going to reach out to, in some cases, corporate, saying, I did this, or I mistreated a person that was signing up for a membership, and I manipulated them and pressured them into signing up when they weren't ready. Right? That type of feedback has a way, particularly in the era we're in with social media, it will get out. And I don't care if you're spending $20,000 a month on your marketing efforts in a smaller facility or a smaller studio. I mean, if you've got a boatload of negative online reviews, it's hurting you. All right, it's hurting you. So all of that marketing spend and advertising spend is not going to be as effective as it would be if there weren't a plethora of negative reviews online that exist about your particular facility or facilities, folks. So let's just do the right thing. Let's just do the right thing. And as an industry, let me give you an example here. The second half of this episode, I'm going to have 3 different examples here as we talk about different sales cultures. But WCPO entitled this article, Ghost of Bali Total Fitness Bills Woman for 29 Years. John Matarese published this November 3rd, 2016. So it's an older article, but this whole concept and the lifetime membership concept and how things went sour in some cases is pretty well known in the fitness industry. So, and let me give a disclaimer. I am a previous member of Bally Total Fitness of Novi, had a wonderful experience. But again, I operate here on Fitness Writing in a professional capacity, so I have to just, talk about what's relevant and what's important, regardless of where my membership has been or is or anything like that. So I'm going to be objective. And so let me highlight this article here. I won't read it all in the interest of time, but I'll read enough to give you a very important clue of what went down here and what went down, in several other places regarding this whole concept. Every year during the holiday season, health clubs roll out super deals to get us to join. But a Fairfield, Ohio woman is regretting joining a gym because it has kept charging her money even years after it went out of business. The 1980s were a time of big dance movies like Flashdance, bigger hair, and even bigger workout routines. A young LaVon Leary decided to join Bally Total Fitness at their gym on Coleraine Avenue in Northgate. In 1987, I bought a lifetime membership to Bally, she said. She signed a contract agreeing to pay just $53 a year for her lifetime deal. It turns out it really was for her lifeline. But bills showed up year after year for that membership, her most recent one now over $90, even after the entire Bally chain went bankrupt and closed all gyms. So she called the number on her bill and was stunned by what she learned. When I called to ask them, why do I still have to pay this since it has been almost 30 years, they told me it was a lifetime membership and I would have to pay it the rest of my life. Ironically, the shopping center where Leary used to work out 25 years ago at her old Bally currently has a LA Fitness. In several states, LA Fitness bought out all the Bally clubs and member list. That's what happened to me here in Novi. But unfortunately, she can't use it because her membership has nothing to do with that club. Instead, her contract was transferred to several different clubs over the years, all over town, the most recent in Western Hills, more than 30 minutes from her home. So, folks, that's an example. Not going to read the rest of that. Got to move on here, but that's an example. Like I said, membership signups, very problematic, troublesome area in the fitness industry across the board, across the nation, across the board. We're talking about franchises, corporate chain locations, studios. This is a very big privately owned, publicly owned. This is a very big problem in the industry. And I've highlighted this a number of times over the years, and it is so important. Like, once again, here we have an example. This is an extreme example because the gym, she signed up for the lifetime membership, but folks, on the back end, in terms of people canceling memberships and continuing to be billed, is something you read online reviews happens constantly. Like I said, across the board. So you can't just say it's one type of, it's only commercial clubs or it's only, no. This happens across the board, where the cancellation process is difficult and people have a very tough time, and you have folks filing lawsuits, you have folks, filing complaints with their state attorney general, Better Business Bureau complaints, and last year, as I talked about last summer, a number of class action lawsuits were filed regarding billing and facilities and chains, billing members even though the doors were closed, and they told them in some cases that they wouldn't be billed, and they were billed anyway, but it was just a big mess, particularly last summer with the coronavirus pandemic and facilities closing down for a few months in various, and actually all parts of the country, but and when they reopened and all of that, it differed, but every club was closed for a certain amount of time at some point. And so it was a very big issue that happened. Lawsuits, again, litigation still ongoing in some of those cases, folks, but it's not worth it. Again, getting sued, class action lawsuit against you. You just don't want that as part of your facility, your facility's reputation. Again, when you start off, you have these values and missions, what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish. And then sales, unethical sales practices, unethical cancellation practices have dogged the industry for years. And no doubt in my mind it will continue to do so. I mean, it's just an unfortunate fact. But I'm always going to implore you and implore myself, let's just always be people of integrity. Let's maintain and realize how precious our credibility is and how important it is that we maintain our integrity in good times and bad times, when the pressure's on and when the pressure's off. Like that old saying is, character is revealed when no one is looking. All right, it's easy when the spotlight is on an individual for that person to do the right thing and act with integrity and all of this and that. But when no one is looking, all right, what do? So let's be determined. Let's make decisions to do the right thing. Let's do the right thing. And this, like I said, was kind of big news. But like I said, I was a prior member of Bally. Didn't have any issues. I haven't had any billing/cancellation issues. And since I've been a member of, various gyms in the fitness industry in different states, I've been fortunate. But it happens, and it happens to people all the time. And it is a definite black mark on the industry that day by day, interaction by interaction, individuals within facilities have the ability to turn the tide on this negative reputation, that people feel burned and manipulated. And I cancel my membership and there's 18 months later and they're still they're still charging me a monthly fee. It's just, folks, let's just do the right thing. Let's keep it short and sweet here. Let's just do the right thing as I move on in here we're going to look at two different types of facilities. We're looking at sales culture. We kind of started out a little bit with sales ethics and just the challenges of performance and sales being directly responsible for a company, an organization, a facility's revenues. So there's this pressure and these expectations. And you have some people that are outliers, like the gentleman that sold 250 cars, and then you have, I'm sure, the person that sold, whether in that dealership or another dealership, a handful of cars, and then it's just rough. It's just rough, all right? And so we want to act with integrity, and like I said, I don't know anyone in that dealership, not passing in terms of, again, there's no legal judgment that has been passed upon them, but it's just you don't want your facility's name in the paper. You don't want members of your leadership team being questioned by federal authorities saying who knew what when. All right, let's just operate with integrity. It's so important. And so going to look at in terms of sales culture. So we're going to have two entities, actually three entities that are on opposite ends of the spectrum here. So we're going to look at Planet Fitness being, as you've heard me say on a number of episodes, a marketing-driven organization. All right, they don't have salespeople. They have front desk staff and other people, depending on who's available and who is called in, that give tours and sign people up. And so you have that type of entity, that a publicly traded company that advertises heavily, and so via various channels. And so on the other end of the spectrum, two well-known sales cultures. With very high performance standards, very high expectations, being Lifetime Fitness and LA Fitness. And so I've talked in a number of episodes over years, talk about the club industry rankings that come out. Didn't talk about that last year. I don't even know if they even had a rankings last year based on the COVID situation. That would be unfair to evaluate different entities based on how many of them were closed already by the time that would have come out. And so not going to look at 2020 rankings, but historically, and I mentioned this when I was a member of Planet. Planet was the highest ranking franchise on the club industry rankings. And then the number one was LA Fitness, number two, Lifetime Fitness. And actually, the most recent rankings that I highlighted, Planet Fitness was number 6. And so they use various criteria. I'm not going to get into that in terms of how they determine who and what criteria go into those rankings, but the rankings are what they are. And so I want to highlight those two, and particularly your Lifetime, your LA Fitness, which has account managers. Lifetime has engagement managers, membership engagement managers. So there's that additional level in terms of signing up people, as well as retaining members. All right, because getting new member acquisition, that's hard enough and that's expensive, but membership retention, this is something I've talked about. And this is not just even in the fitness industry, But new customer acquisition, where you're talking about somebody buying a new car or someone signing up for a gym membership or anything else, new member acquisition is expensive. But customer retention, all right, is so important because it's less expensive to keep someone. And then this is true even in HR. All right, you're hiring new employees versus keeping the ones you have, developing the ones you have is so important and certainly far less expensive. So I've talked about that over the years as well. And so have these three entities. And so my goal was, in full transparency, was going to go in and get a tour, get some fresh, and I've done this historically in previous years. I'm going to get some fresh tours of a location, a local location of each of these different gyms, one location. And then I thought about that, and I said, but you know what? Like, now is not the time to do that. Now is not the time in terms of my ability or my need to do some secondary research for this episode by getting a tour, because the pressure's really on in the industry. All right, and so if I'm walking into an LA Fitness or a Lifetime Fitness, and an account manager is really, he or she's really going to think they have an opportunity to sell me a gym membership, and that's just not the case. All right, and so as I've stated a number of times, I have a soft heart for salespeople as well as marketing professionals, and so whether it's a marketing, a product manager who's sending me a survey about something, I will make time for that. Market research, I will make time for that. As well as salespeople, when I'm in sales situations myself personally, I'm not a fan on wasting a salesperson's time. If I have no interest in a product or service, I will typically let the person know that, hey, this is what I have. I'm only interested in this, and so don't try to upsell me. I mean, I respect you with all due respect. I understand what you're trying to do, and I understand what your expectations are. It's depending on how much time I have. I will let that person kind of go through their spill, particularly if a manager comes by or a manager's part of the process right there. We'll go through just out of respect and understanding and compassion for what a salesperson goes through. But I decided not to do that because, again, with memberships down, a lot of gyms closed permanently, just don't want to get anyone's hopes up unnecessarily. Like, now is not the time for that. And so what I've done instead is I'm going to highlight some current and former employee reviews from Indeed.com as well as Glassdoor.com. Now, I've done this particularly on HR-oriented episodes on Fitness Friday. I've done this in the past, and let me pull up my screenshots. So, screenshotted some employee reviews. And so I've got my little notes here because I'm going to keep them in order and want to emphasize. So I chose Lifetime, again, from a methodology standpoint, from a research standpoint. All right, this is a convenient sample. All right, time was tight. I wanted to do something for this particular episode to highlight these points. So this is a convenient sample, a very small convenient sample, and I chose 3 gyms, and they're actually very close to me. And so the first is Lifetime Fitness in Novi. The second is Planet Fitness Northville. And lastly, LA Fitness Plymouth. So all right here, suburbs, fairly close to mine. And so from a distance and proximity standpoint, for those who don't live in the Metro Detroit area, I want you to have an understanding of what, in terms of how far these are apart. So I tried to have these particular locations close together, just for research purposes. I'm just, again, highlighting some of this information. So Lifetime Fitness Novi, according to Google Maps, via Baseline Road, is 3.4 miles to reach Planet Fitness in Northville, which is on East Main Street. So that Planet Fitness is 8.8 miles to the LA Fitness Plymouth on Ann Arbor Road. So very close together in terms of proximity. And so want to start out here with a review that I've highlighted in the past. And this was on an HR/leadership episode. This had to be 2018, maybe 2019. I remember I was at Planet when I read this. And so this is a very good employee review. And so for those who don't know, Indeed.com, Glassdoor.com is a wealth of information in terms of evaluating what folks are saying about your facilities, being an employee there, a former employee. And so you can get a lot of good information. Of course, positive as well as negative. I mean, strengths as well as weaknesses, areas for growth and development and learning in terms of making the employee experience better. They have these across the country, but as I stated, this is a convenient sample. And so, but it's important to note with both of them, with both of these websites, if you do a company search, so for this, a gym chain, all right, and say it's any type of large gym chain that has locations here in Metro Detroit or wherever you may be, Dallas, Texas, or Seattle, whatever the case may be. Both of these sites are going to, when you do it like a general Google search, it is going to, when you put in the name of the gym or the chain, it's going to, in terms of these reviews, it is going to sort and filter those reviews, and it's going to display those that are closest to you geographically. So it's important to know that. It's important to know that. And they've gotten in the last couple of years, and I realize every year I do it, it gets harder where they let you review 2 or 3, and then it kind of blurs it out, and they want you to do your own review. You know, write a review and we'll let you see the rest. And so I wasn't interested in doing all of that. But there was a time when you'd be able to go through a long list. A few years ago, I'd be able to go through a long list of a particular chain or gym, whatever the case may be. But that's just not the case. But these are very good examples. And this is one I read. It's a lengthy one, but it's a very good, balanced review in terms of employee feedback. And I want to point something out because we're talking about sales culture here. Again, this is a marketing driven in terms of business model, in terms of what they're doing. This is a marketing driven organization, but this employee, this former employee, pointed out something that I'll highlight here in a few minutes when I finish reading this. So got a 4-star review, and so just for full clarification, so I Googled, so if you want to do the same, but you need to be very careful to do these searches the way that, but the Google search phrasing I used, PF reviews, Indeed, Northville, Michigan. Is what I typed in. But just once again, you may need to do a search if you're looking, want to see this. You may need to do a search specifically by city and state. But again, this is closer to me, so it was easier process. But just know that they don't make it easy. So 4-star review entitled, "A Good Job, but It's Not for Everyone." So a front desk associate, a former employee, Northville, Michigan, August 19th, 2018. So pros. Like any customer service job, your experience will vary depending on location and management. I mean, this was so insightful. I thought to myself, this person really, because that's true with anything. Everything, and leadership is one of my professional areas, leadership development. John C. Maxwell, world-renowned leadership experts, has said, everything rises on leadership. So one facility may have a ton of turnover, and in another facility that's part of the same chain 5 miles away may have wonderful employee retention. It just, everything rises and falls on leadership. Next, free Black Card membership. Next, consistent shifts so it's easier to plan your life around. So in parentheses, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., 2 p.m. to 10 p.m., 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. So this was back in the day, obviously, when it was 24 hours. Next, compared to most front desk jobs, the pay is decent. Next, at my particular location, I had great management and awesome coworkers. I can honestly say there was never any work drama. Everyone was treated as equals. Next, I didn't want to work my way up in the company, but if you do, they make it plausible to do that. Next, you really get to know the members' regulars. Most members are genuinely nice. So, cons. It's a fast-paced, ever-changing work environment. I'm a full-time college student, so I would only work a couple of days a week. Things would change so often, it was hard to keep up. Things like current promotions, tour script, etc. So let me quickly digress here for a minute to talk about the tour script. All right, the tour script. So anyone potentially, so there's a front desk person that was responsible for giving tours because they don't have formal salespeople, as I stated before. And so from a brand management perspective, Planet wants to keep their corporate locations, their corporate owned clubs, as well as franchise locations, quote unquote, on message. All right, so they are given a tour script. This is what you need to say. This is what you need to do, yada, yada. So it's spelled out. All right, versus a sales-driven organization that's going to say, hey, we've given you freedom, you uncover needs, you have these deep conversations, whatever. But it's important to know the diametrically opposed ways of handling a tour. all right, in a sales process. And so very, very scripted, because you want to keep people, and the planet wants to keep them on message to maintain the brand equity, to maintain the value of the brand. You can keep people on message. So that's important to know, that they are working from a script. All right, next, as a full-time student, I already have plenty of homework to do. I don't want to deal with homework from my part-time job as well. At PF, you would have to study, practice the tour script at home. So theoretically, don't want deviation from this script. So you need to work on it, you need to memorize it. This is what we want you to say. Next, very important point here. So this is not in all caps, but I'm telling you, I'm emphasizing this like it is in all caps. Next, feeling pressured to sell Black Card memberships. All right, so when you think about, even though it's a marketing-driven organization, and so I've stated this was a few episodes, that again, for facilities that have tiered memberships, that entry-level membership, all right, and of course this varies by whether it's a corporate-owned location or a franchise. It just, again, everything rises and falls on leadership. Who owns the facility? Who owns the chain? Whatever the case may be. And how much emphasis they place on upgrades and upselling. Because Planet, they've got to have the volume. Talked about that on marketing episodes ad nauseum over the years, but they have this mass marketing approach where they're on TV and they got billboards and all of that, because they need member volume, because they have higher than normal in terms of level of churn, and members leaving and member attrition. So it's like you're constantly on the hunt, all right, and particularly when you're offering that $10 a month membership. What percentage of members at a particular club this is just a good question. How many members of a particular location are at that basic membership versus a Black Card membership? And so whatever is emphasized, so this employee pointed out very well, Black Card membership. So that the $10 membership, for those who don't know, that's a White Card membership for one location. And it's $10 plus tax plus fees. The same with Blink. They don't eat the sales tax. So it's $10 and something, or depending on where you are, but that tax, that state sales tax is added. And so the PF Black Card membership, which is what I had, but I started out at that White Card and 3 weeks later upgraded to Black Card, $22.99 plus taxes and fees. So that's important to know. All right. So even though they've got a lot of members and they've got to have that member volume, what percentage of sales or memberships, new memberships, are at that second tier. All right, and this is true when you go to a restaurant and they're trying to sell you something. Would you like to have this with your meal? And that's why this is so common, because upgrades and upsells can generate additional incremental revenues. All right, and so even Planet with a $10 membership plus taxes and fees, I always like to clarify that, knows you got to have a healthy amount of Black Card memberships, paying that $22.99 plus taxes and fees in order even for that business model. All right, to endure over time. You got to have a certain number of people, getting those upgrades. All right, versus having 90%, just making up a number here, the facility with 90% members, 95% of people at that $10 a month membership. Right, because you got your rent, and you got payroll, you have all of these fixed and variable expenses and costs that need to be covered. And so with those upsells resulting in increased incremental revenues, it's easier to manage those costs. Next, you have a lot of cleaning to do in addition to working front desk, selling memberships, taking people on tours, phone calls, etc. Like any customer service job, there are difficult customers. Next, small annoying things like the music was always the same and on a constant loop. Uniforms, having to clock in 15 minutes before a shift. The company really cares about the work culture in the judgment-free zone. I think it's a positive that they have, it was very long, that they have strong values and want inclusion. However, the judgment-free zone in and itself does come across a bit judgmental, particularly with the dress code and with those who are physically fit. Had to screenshot a whole different shot to get the last of that paragraph. So finally, pros: free membership, consistent shifts, great coworkers, and great management. Cons: fast-paced, ever-changing, heavy focus on sales, especially Black Cards. So I wanted to highlight that review again a few years later with a different angle, from a sales angle that says, yes, so even a market-driven organization or market-driven franchise or market-driven chain, marketing-driven, pardon me, has an emphasis on sales, a heavy emphasis on sales, in fact. And so next, want to move on to Glassdoor. So I Googled Glassdoor, LA Fitness Reviews, Plymouth, Michigan. And so what I have here is, again, I just choose them, and again, before it blurs them out where you can't read them anymore, so you kind of read the first ones that pop up. So this person, a current employee, less than a year, gave it 3 stars, and the title of this person's job was personal training counselor. The date of it is April 10th, 2016. And so the pros, it says, gain experience in field, establish relationships with clients. Cons, sales, convincing people to buy personal training. And so, as I've stated before a number of times, LA Fitness, Lifetime, they're known. Those are very heavy sales-driven cultures. But this, I wanted you to hear it from employees and former employees themselves. So another Glassdoor review gave it 2.0, a former employee. The title of it is Only for Certain People. So July 30th, 2016, a personal trainer at this location says the pros are possibility of commission was nice. The cons, only care about money and selling. Not interested in providing quality if it does not bring them more money. And so that was LA Fitness. And so I'm going to move on now to Lifetime. I'm going to move on to Lifetime and go back to Indeed.com. And so, again, I've never been a member of Lifetime Fitness. And so this is not a judgment on these companies or anything like that, but it's well known that these are very sales, performance oriented cultures. All right, I was a member of Bally's, I have to give the disclaimer, but I was a member of Bally Fitness. LA Fitness acquired us, and so I'm actually technically a former 1-year member of LA Fitness. Now, I never went because their closest club to me at the time was Southfield, and I didn't feel like driving that far. And that's how I ended up at Powerhouse Gym in Novi. They got a boatload of us that went to Powerhouse. So I'm technically a former member of LA. Have nothing against them or anything like that. Just still have a lot of respect for all of these organizations. But just want to point this out. So this is what a Lifetime Fitness person, and I Googled it. And let me tell you what this phrase was. Indeed reviews Lifetime Fitness, Novi, Michigan. So this is the south end of my city, the south end of my suburb here, with a Lifetime. We have another one on the north end of my city, which is kind of borders somewhat between Novi and Commerce Township. So there's just, as I've stated, a lot of market saturation going on here. But 3.0 was rated, and the title of this review is OK Company. Now, this is a certified personal trainer, former employee, Novi, Michigan, November 5th, 2020. You do get benefits and treated like an employee. However, you had to work long hours, either 1 to 9 p.m. or 6:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. Money is based on commission, so you need to hit sales goals, and there's no bonuses for trainers, so they want you to stay long hours to hit your sales goals. Work you to death, basically. So, again, I have no inside information in terms of my own experience with Lifetime, just pointing this out, but that's what one person said about the sales culture. Next, this one person gave it a 1 star. It says, great for college grads, no sales experience. And so this is an account manager / corporate membership sales, former employee, Novi, Michigan, October 18th, 2017. So this person said, great starter job for fresh college grads to experience cutthroat sales, long hours, low benefits, and no ROI. In parentheses, your training they paid for. Limited tools and small thinking make daily sales the only focus. If you're a follower, it's a great job. All right, and so next we have a 4-star review from a group fitness instructor, a current employee, Novi, Michigan, March 25th, 2019. Lifetime has given me the ability to do what I love, which is teaching group fitness while maintaining my full-time job. The culture is amazing and contagious. And so very positive review here for this particular individual, but it's important to note this group fitness instructor, that's an area where you're not going to have sales pressure and sales goals and all of that. So you have to think about that when you're evaluating, how folks are compensated, where they're working, where the pressure would be, where some of the pain points would be for your employees. But also, this is a current employee. So you have to think of a current employee living a review versus a former employee. Sometimes there could be some biases there in terms of the person, what if I get found out and I lose my job? And so you just, regardless of what types of reviews that you're looking at on Indeed or Glassdoor, you just kind of have to recognize that there's a potential for bias. So those are all the reviews that like I said, it was limited in terms of the number that I could actually use. I have respect and admiration for Planet Fitness, LA Fitness, and Lifetime Fitness. All three just highlighting some of the reviews that were up top and close to me and that I was able to access without having to create an account and do my, review a company I've worked for before in order to see more. So in the interest of time, as I stated before, this was a convenient sample, but they highlight, the role of sales, whether you're talking about in the Planet chain, as well as in traditional high performance, high pressure organizations or corporate chains such as LA Fitness and Lifetime Fitness. And so it is so important. So just to recognize, in many cases, if somebody's a new employee, to think about a potential employee of one type of place over the other. This sales piece and this sales pressure piece inside the fitness industry, not that I'm thinking about it, but also outside of the fitness industry. Sales, you're going to more often than not experience a lot of pressure. And so we just have to know that pressure is part of the process. It comes with the territory, as the old saying goes, but we must act with integrity. We must maintain our credibility and just treat folks right, do the right thing. And if you're wondering, what type of facility that I have, look at your reviews. Folks will tell you what type. If you have some reviews on there, a boatload of reviews of people complaining about that, try to cancel my membership and they keep billing me and the manager avoids my calls and I can't get anybody to cancel my membership, or I didn't want to sign up and I felt pressured and strong-armed, and just look at your reviews and talk to people. And so we're all human. We all make mistakes. And so don't beat yourself up and you look and see some reviews of, oh goodness, I got this sales culture where it makes me look like we're unethical and we really are good people and we really want to do right by our members. Remember, there's always, as I talked about last week, there's always an opportunity to reset. Yes, the performance pressure coming down, and we're talking about a corporate chain or even franchise locations or even a private facility or studio. The pressure can be relentless. It can be absolutely unbearable at times, but we must not succumb to sales pressure that will cause us to act in a manner that is unethical, that will compromise the integrity of our company, of our organization, of our chain, whatever the case may be, folks. Let's just do the right thing. Let's just aspire to be the best people that we can be. And from a leadership perspective, let's reward values. Let's reward honesty and integrity and doing things the right way and achieving goals with above board means, all right, and not having these outliers where one person is outperforming everyone and you don't know what's going on and there could be some potential legal issues or legal exposure there. Just don't want to end up in that type of situation, and so folks, that is all I have for you today. This has been quite an episode here that I just had to highlight this separately because the sales ethics, sales culture, as it relates to the fitness industry, is dogged the industry, and it doesn't have to be this way. It does not have to be this way. And it's happened for years and years and years and years, and it's just going to take a concerted effort to turn that reputation around in the fitness industry. All right, and so I cannot wait until next week, where it's going to be a power-packed episode where I'm going to highlight several examples of sales promotion. With those outside the fitness industry, it's always good to look at kind of objectively and say, well, what other industries are doing? What other products and services are being promoted? What sales promotions tactics are they using? So stay tuned for that, folks. I cannot wait. But until then, remember, I am positively passionate about your fitness, leadership, and absolutely sales. Make it a great day.